the great conservative movement of America and of our time. A brush fire of freedom that's being lit all over this country. We, as an irate, tireless American populace, will overcome the few radical leftists that control the levers of power today. Joe Biden's failed economic policies has given us inflation like you can't believe, and the border is in disarray.
It's amazing how few of the people commenting on this have actually bothered to go see what's happening. Well, Congressman Andy Biggs of Arizona actually went to the border.
Biggs, where's Andy? Boy, oh boy, Andy. There's a guy. He's tough.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of What's the Big's Idea? It's my semi-regular podcast. Thanks for joining us today. I have a special guest today. He's special because he's a good friend, and he does a good job. He's the National Border Patrol Council president since March of 2013. He served as an agent for 22 years.
25.
25 years.
25.
That's awesome. And frontline agent down on the border, doing the stuff that agents do. Great guy, Mr. Brandon Judd. Brandon, thanks for being with me.
Hey, thanks. I really appreciate it. And by the way, I just heard that tease, and Donald Trump gave you a great shout out. Just so that you know, and not to embarrass you any, but he gives me a lot more shout outs.
I only do the one shout out, Brandon. It would take the whole podcast to do that kind of shout out.
That wasn't a very good pushback, but anyway.
Yeah, no, I know.
We'll go with it. We'll go with it.
Very good. So I've been down with Brandon to the border. I cannot tell you how many times, but Brandon, I'm just going to ask you one question and then let you go, and then I'll ask for more.
You know I'm going to
information
get
as well.
upset, right?
I do.
So, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just as long as we have that up front.
Yeah. So my question for you is, what the heck's going on the border today? And you and I talked before we start on. We talked about different areas you could go into. Give it to us. Give it to the audience.
Well,
straight.
I'm just going to focus on Arizona. And
Yeah.
Andy, I can't tell you how ticked off I am right now. What we're seeing is absolutely unimaginable. We knew it was going to be bad. Don't get me wrong. The moment Biden was inaugurated, we knew it was going to get bad. We just never believed that it could get this bad. And what we're seeing is the normalization of 4,000 to 5,000 crossings every single day. I mean, we've got to understand that when we normalize that, we're giving control to the cartels of our border. We just don't have the agents to patrol the border when we're dealing with 4,000 to 5,000 people that are giving up every single day. And then, of course, it just goes up from there. But just the month of January, we averaged 4,500 apprehensions every single day, and and a majority of those apprehensions are coming in Arizona. And so we see just how savvy these cartels are, and we don't react to it. We are literally giving the cartels control whenever they want control. They know that all they have to do is cross large numbers of groups in a certain area. We then have to deploy our resources to that area, and that leaves gaps in our coverage. And when we leave those gaps in our coverage, that's when the cartels bring across the fentanyl, the cocaine, the methamphetamine, the criminals from special interest countries, the criminal aliens. You know, all of that bad stuff comes because the cartels know how to control our borders, and it strictly comes down to policy. And that's why I get so fired up about this, because Joe Biden, we hear the rhetoric. We hear him say, well, Congress should give me the laws. We don't need laws, Andy. All we need is executive action from this administration, and we could shut the border down tomorrow. And he knows it, but he'll continue to deflect and distract, and he knows that the mainstream media is going to cover for him. And that's why I'm so fired up about this.
So there's so much to unpack there. So we could talk about the diversionary tactics that the cartels use. And we see those. I mean, if you casually go down, I casually go down on a regular basis. You see it all the time. Mm-hmm. The failure to enforce. Tell me about that. I mean, so Biden, President Biden is coming out and he's always saying, look, I got to have more authority. And yet by executive order, he's the one who basically emasculated the prior policy. So when we talk policy, I talk enforcement of the policy that's in place, yes, and restoration of policy that needs to be made. What do you see? What policies are going unenforced, and what needs to be enforced, and how does that change it?
So one of the things that I love about this great country is we are the most compassionate country in the world. We take in more legal immigrants than any other country in the entire world. But then on top of that, we have the right of people to claim asylum if they feel that they're going to be tortured, murdered, can't get a job because of political beliefs, certain things like that. But the threshold is very high. But we do have an asylum system, and what we're seeing today is we're seeing the exploitation of the loopholes in the asylum system that this administration is allowing them to do. So when you look at that, people that come here to the United States, even if they cross the border illegally, they still can claim asylum. But they have that right under our laws. But what they don't have a right to is they don't have a right to a release into the United States. And that's what we're doing. And that's the policy issue that I'm talking about. If people knew that they were going to be held in custody, or if they were going to have to wait in Mexico pending their asylum claim, which, by the way, Andy, that's what most of the developed world does. They do not allow you to just come to their country, claim asylum, and get released into their country. You have to wait in that first safe third country that you go to. That's what most of the developed world does. So, we could follow that, but this administration has made the conscious decision that they're going to release these people, and that's the magnet that draws so many people here. So that's the policy issue. It is one simple policy. Stop releasing people into the United States, and the moment you do that, illegal crossings go down, and once they go down, we can then go after the cartels and we can protect the American people, which is what we want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't found an agent yet who says, yeah, we want to just release people in. We're content transporting and processing. I mean, that's not what they want to do. Let's talk about violations of law of the administration, whether it's Secretary Mayorkas or President Biden. There are laws on the books, and one of the ones we were talking about before we came on live was the notion of you have something like 1.5 million people in the country who've received process and have an active removal order by a court, a U.S. court.
Yes.
And what's the policy of Secretary Mayorkas?
He has, and we're not just going to use policy. We're going to use what he said publicly. He said the simple act of being in the country illegally is not enough for an enforcement action. Right there tells you that his mindset is that he's not going to enforce the law. And then look at the actions. He does not allow ICE to go after these individuals that are in the country that already have a deportation order. So now he's acting on what his intent is. So he is, in fact, violating the laws. And when you look at these this impeachment inquiry that's going on, and I think they just filed the articles last night.
They did.
When you look at that, if they would focus on after the fact. So focus on what Mayorkas is doing after people are being released. Right now they're focusing solely on that he's releasing people. Well, the courts have already said that the executive branch has and the judicial branch has the authority to release people. They said that it's prosecutorial discretion. But what they don't have discretion is to fail to enforce the laws on the back end, and that's what they're not doing. So all of these people that get released into the United States, when they fail to show up to their whether it's a court date, whether it's an appointment, at that point, the moment they fail to show up, they have now violated that release, and we should be going after them, and we're not. And that's the violation of law, and that's why Mayorkas should be impeached.
So let's carry that a step further. So when the Inspector General for Homeland Security has filed a report, I think it's 2347, and he said when they don't show up, we've lost contact with almost all of them. We don't know where they are, what they're doing. And so how does the fact that Secretary Mayorkas is not enforcing that law, the fact that they can just disappear into the country, how does that incentivize people to come? Is that a selling point for cartels, the NGOs, the UN Office of Migration that's involved? How does that work for them as far as an incentive point?
Oh, okay. So first off, that mind of yours, that's still trapped. 2347. Way to go. Way to throw that out. I didn't know it was 2347. But so that's when we look at, we call them magnets. We call them what draws people to cross our borders illegally. And there's two main things that draw people to cross our. Well, I'm sorry. There's three main things. The three main things that draw people to cross our borders illegally is, one, they know that they're going to be released, and that's what they want. They want to be in the country, and if we're going to release them, they're going to continue to come. The second thing is zero fear that anything's going to happen to them when they do not show up to their appearances. So we don't go after them. So that draws even more people. And then, of course, the social benefits that they get here. So, we hear this irregular migration, which is that's a BS word phrase, by the way.
Where'd that come from, by the way?
There is no such thing as irregular migration, and if there was, you would see huge flows going into Canada as well. And they don't go into Canada because they don't have the social benefits that we have here. And two, Canada doesn't just release people. Canada holds on to them pending their deportation proceedings. So if we were to follow suit and we were to do the exact same thing, we would drop illegal immigration to lows that we haven't seen in 40 years. And again, then we're able to go after the cartels. And if we can go after the cartels, we can save American lives.
So that's awesome. I mean, it sounds so simple. Does it not?
It is simple, but then politics get in the way. Yeah. And that's the issue. So right here in D.C., you've got all of these lefties that are going to come after people that just speak the truth. If you speak the truth, they're going to come after you. You know that.
That's right. And you know that too.
I do.
Yeah.
All you have to do is go to USA Today. But if you speak the truth, so I did an interview on Fox News. I don't know, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I don't know exactly when it was. But Bill Hemmer specifically asked. He said, "Why are they coming here?" And I said, "It's all about the demographics of the electorate." And the moment I said that, oh my gosh, I'm a white nationalist, I'm a racist, because I'm spouting conspiracy theories, and I had no idea what the Great Replacement theory was. I think that's what it's called. I had no idea what it was. All I knew was that John Podesta's think tank wrote a paper saying that if they don't change the demographics of the electorate, the Democrats can't stay in power. I also listened to, I don't know if it was Joaquin Castro, who was the HUD secretary under Obama.
Oh my goodness!
It was one of the Castro brothers.
Yeah.
So one of the Castro brothers.
I think it was Joaquin.
Okay, so Joaquin Castro, while he was the HUD secretary, did an interview, and he said, "Watch the state of Texas. It's red now, but it's going to turn purple, and then it's going to go blue because the demographics are changing." So they've already telegraphed what their plan is. And then let's look at D.C. itself. What did D.C. just do? D.C. just passed a law that anybody that resides within D.C., even if you're a member of a foreign government, you can vote in local elections. That's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to change. And then on top of it, you look at these millions of people that are coming in because the Supreme Court said that the census counts everybody here, not just legal people, but everybody that's in the United States. So if you import 10 million people, you've just created a bunch of new districts where you're now going to, and we know that these people are going to the liberal states. So if you create new districts because of the population growing, now you've got more congressmen that are Democrats. I mean, come on, it's right there in front of us and it's unfolding. But if you speak the truth, you're going to get called a racist when this has nothing to do with race. I have arrested people that are whiter than I am. And I will do it, and I would do it again because it has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with enforcing our laws.
Yeah, and I'll just tell you, 10 million people is about 12 or 13 congressional districts.
Exactly.
Changes that totally. And I'll just tell you, when I served in the Arizona State Legislature, I don't want to call him out because I actually like him. We got along fine. We just disagreed on everything politically, but we got along fine. Martin Quesada told me, he said, it's the very same thing that Secretary Castro said. He said, look, what's going to happen is Arizona's red, and because it was red when I was in the state legislature,
yes,
he says it's going to go purple and it's going to turn blue and it's going to be demographically led. That's what he told me. I mean, he wasn't. These people weren't mincing words. I mean, and then the second tier system also exists in the minds of people like Jerry Nadler, Nancy Pelosi, who said, well, what who's going to pick our vegetables? Who's going to work in our fields if we don't allow
Is that
illegal-
not exploitation? I mean, come on. Again, they go after conservatives, and they constantly call conservatives bad. When look at what they're doing, aren't they exploiting cheap labor? Aren't they the ones that are consigning these people to these lower tier jobs? I mean, isn't that what they're doing when they bring in all of these people? And this is what just absolutely disgusts me. When these people are coming into the country under liberal policies, they're going into indentured servitude because they don't have. Look, Andy, I make a very good living, but I don't have $50,000 just laying around that I can give to a cartel to smuggle me to another part of the world. Neither do these people in China. Otherwise, they would stay in China. If they had $50,000 in the bank, they wouldn't be coming to the United States. So these people that are coming here under these liberal policies, the liberals are consigning them to indentured servitude. But nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about that. All they want to say is, oh, conservatives, they want the rule of law, but they don't say that they want the rule of law. All they say is that we're racist, we're xenophobes. Right. But in reality, we want the rule of law because the rule of law is what keeps this country great and what keeps it safe. That's all we're after is the rule of law.
And it makes us unique. I mean, you can't have freedom if you don't have the rule of law. You really can't.
Absolutely.
It becomes almost anarchical.
Absolutely.
The strong person, as we're talking about right now, they'll take advantage of the weaker person and exploit them. How about this one? We've had Democrats in Congress who say, but we have to bring in these people because our national demographic, the American demographic, is aging. And we have more people retiring, and thus the social safety net of Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, it's going to collapse unless we get a whole bunch of people in a younger generation to prop it up, if you will. Isn't that the same kind of exploitation?
It is. It's exactly the same. I mean, they fail to look at families and what's going on. Look, I've got 6 children. I don't know. I know
I got
that you've
6.
Okay, so you've got 6 children. I think that we are having enough children in this country that we're going to be able to bridge that gap. And if we don't, then let's do it legally, not illegally. Congress has the right to set legal immigration limits. And you guys look at that all the time. Andy, you look at it. You look at how many jobs exist out there. What is the legal immigration that we need? But this is not, we're not talking about legal immigration. Everything that we're discussing right now is illegal immigration. And I don't understand why we can't why everybody can't realize that all we want is to protect the rule of law, because if we have the rule of law, we're safe. Look at all these cities, this anarchy that is taking place in the cities. It's simply because we're not enforcing the laws. And when we don't enforce the laws, everybody becomes less safe. And that's what frustrates me about Biden, and that's what frustrates me about Mayorkas.
Yeah, to me, it's a very interesting thing to say, because you're hearing this now from people from all sides. They'll say, well, we have a labor shortage, and we do, but our labor shortage is not necessarily because we don't have the population. It's because we have people who benefit, who are U.S. citizens who benefit, and legal residents.
Incentivized.
Yeah, they're incentivized actually to stay out of the workforce. So you've got that going on. In the meantime, we know that there's been over 6 million. I mean, that's what the administration is. They've released over 6 million people into the country. They've given them parole, which means that they've got some kind of certificate to go work and whatnot. And if we had a 10 million person shortage, you would imagine that we would have cut into that shortage of labor just from that influx. But you don't see that. And why is that, Brandon?
Well, so, we talk about 6 million. Let's be honest about what the numbers actually are. So those people that have crossed the border illegally and have received a release are a little over 5 million. Then, of course, you've got the parolees. That's over, I think that's approaching 2 million now. So now we're up to 7 million. Then on top of that, you've got the known gotaways, those that have been able to evade apprehension. We're approaching 2 million right there. So in 3 years under President Biden, 9 million people have made it into the United States through a form that was never supposed to be there. Now, he's going to say that parole is legal. I know that's being challenged right now, and the courts are going to come out and they're going to say it's not, because you can't mass parole people. It has to be on a case-by-case basis, and that's not what he's doing. So the courts are going to strike that down. So ultimately, it's going to be 9 million people in 3 years that have made it into this country under this president. So yes, if we have a shortage of 6 million jobs, but we just imported 9 million illegal, and then on top of that, what we let in another million that are legal.
Right. Over a million.
So
about 1.2.
now we have more than what the jobs are calling for, but they're not calling for more border security. That's what's insane about all of this.
Yeah, and let's clarify on the legal immigration over the last 3 years. If you include nationalized and permanent legal aliens, you are moving to, it's roughly about 3.5 million people.
Exactly.
Over that period. So I mean, so I find myself, the numbers don't seem to match.
No, they don't.
They don't match.
6 million in job shortage. Yet we've got 9 million people here illegally, and we've got another 3 million people here that are legally. Well, that's 12 million. So we've doubled what it is for the jobs. So that talking point of the Democrats, you completely destroy it right there. The problem, Andy, is they're able to lie, and their lie becomes the truth if nobody fact checks them, and the mainstream media doesn't fact check them, and that's the problem. So all of their lies that
Snopes doesn't fact check them?
Of course they don't. Come on. That goes against everything that they stand for. So if you don't fact check them, what they say becomes the truth, even though that truth is a lie.
Yeah, that's George Orwell's 1984. Let me ask you before we run out of time. I want to ask
again. Oh, there's the intelligence popping up. George Orwell. Come
on.
Yeah.
Come on. But here's the deal. Let's talk about.
That's a good thing, Andy. By the way, I mean,
is it okay?
The fact that you're intelligent is a good thing.
I didn't pay him to say that, folks. He just said it. But I just want to talk about one or two recent stories that I've been Eagle Pass and Lukeville and Southern Arizona the last few weeks. But I got a call from a mutual friend of ours, the other day, and he said, "Oh, you can't believe it. There's 700. There was a group of 700 at the San Miguel Gate." I said, "You don't mean the San Miguel Gate, do you?" He says, "Yeah, the San Miguel Gate." Brandon, describe for people what the San Miguel Gate is.
San Miguel Gate is out in the middle of absolute nowhere. So the fact that the cartels are able to get 700 people to the middle of nowhere shows you just how well organized they are.
Yeah.
I think that the nearest Walmart from the San Miguel Gate might be 3 hours away.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's because you got to get off the reservation.
Yeah, so again,
go through cells and head back out to Tucson.
And I hate to give them any credit, but USA Today did an article that says what's the middle of nowhere in the United States, and they based it upon nearest facilities, and I believe Walmart was one of them. Well, the middle of nowhere United States, Walmart is an hour and a half away, 2 hours away. San Miguel, the nearest Walmart, is 3 hours away, and that's on the U.S. side.
Right.
These people are coming on they're being transported on the Mexico side, which is even more remote. So we're talking about any normal place is going to be 4 or 5 hours away. But that just shows you how organized the cartels are. And it also shows you how intelligent they are, because they understand when they take these people to the most remote areas, it requires us to deploy our resources, which pulls us out of the more urban areas.
All of your resources are going there.
Yes.
All of them.
And when that happens, now we leave even larger stretches of the border. So they know that they can cross these same groups in Nogales, Arizona. They could do it. They don't do it because they know that that's a lot easier for us to get there. And if we can get there quicker, then we can patrol more of the border. They cross them out in the middle of absolute nowhere. Now it depletes our resources because it takes us so much longer to get there. They're very intelligent in what they do.
That is such a great point. I mean, because these people, this group of 700, the next day 800, they're all going to surrender, right?
Yep.
So why wouldn't you take them to Nogales, which has a pretty fair-sized city on the southern side and a decent-sized city on the Arizona side? Why wouldn't you take them there?
Because that won't open up the border. That won't allow them to exploit our weaknesses, the gaps in our coverage. When they take them to the middle of nowhere, it takes us so much longer to get there, to get there, and then to transport out. And that takes a huge amount of resources to do that. And because of the distance and the length of time, so what we want to do is cartels want to create time. We want to cut time down. So when you're dealing with people that are trying to evade apprehensions, cartels want to give as much time as they possibly can. We want to cut time down. And if we can do that, we can be a lot more successful. So they take them out in the middle of nowhere, knowing that it's going to open up just miles upon miles upon miles of border. Look, we had Art Del Cueto. This is the person you're talking about, by the way. I probably shouldn't have said that. But we had Ben Shapiro out on the border, and we drove for 23 miles on the border. 23 miles. How many Border Patrol agents do you think we saw on that 23-mile stretch? Not one.
Yeah.
Not one. And that's simply because the cartels control that area. They take people to Lukeville, San Miguel, out in the middle of nowhere, and then it leaves everything else wide open for them to exploit.
We got time still? Oh, we're out of time. Dadgum, because I wanted to ask about National Guard and
So just real quick, I know we're out of time, but just so that you know, since Texas took over Shelby Park, they were averaging 1,800 apprehensions per day. They're down to less than 300 apprehensions per day. Why doesn't Biden follow suit?
Absolutely, folks. My guest, Brandon Judd. What do we call you? The president of the National Border Patrol Council.
You can call me a lot of things.
Yeah, great guy, works hard, totally knowledgeable. I appreciate you joining us today. Brandon, thanks for being with us.
Good to be with you,
that,
Andy.
Join us again.